is a new series at the Wichita Center for the Arts, designed for families. The first in the series is Mother Hicks, a modern play set in the Great Depression. You can see Mother Hicks on October 25th through the 27th and November 1st through the 3rd. Also this month at the Wichita Center for the Arts is the Stephen Sondheim Tony Award-winning musical, A Little Night Music.
Really must now.
She flutters.
How charming.
She twitters.
My word.
She floats.
Is that alarming? What is she? A bird.
She makes me feel I'm what?
A very old man.
Yes. No.
No.
But
I must meet your Gertrude.
my Anne.
Sorry, Anne.
It's set at the turn of the century, and it's all about elegance and grace and different levels of love, and there's different couples and they sort of interchange and sort of what kind of life choices we make and that kind of thing, but it's beautiful Sondheim music.
I love the piece. It's a beautiful piece, and I think not only is it time, but I also think possibly the center audiences. All our different theaters cross audience a lot, but each theater seems to have its core. The center has picked very artistic pieces, and I think the audiences here expect, or at that level of knowledge, taste, culture, that, they might not love the piece, or they might find some things that trouble them or question them, but as a work of art, they will respect it. So I think it's going to be a successful run and an ideal place for it. Also, the size of the theater. I think a piece like A Little Night Music is difficult in a large house. I really do.
Our inventions were unique. Remember, darling.
I was limping for a week. You caught the flu.
I'm sure it was.
A Little Night Music will be performed on the first and second weekends of October. Classic Harvey opened at the Wichita Center for the Arts Thanksgiving weekend and has 2 more performances, December 6th and 7th. Here's a peek at what you might be missing.
Well, it's basically about a man who's has this imaginary rabbit as his friend, and his sister, who he lives with, and his niece can no longer deal with his life, and they think that maybe the best thing for him is to put him into a sanitarium.
Elwood just happens upon him one night, several years before the show starts, and they become very, very good friends. Basically, Elwood is a gentle man, a curious man, a man who genuinely likes people and likes company. Well, Elwood is, the first place one has to be sure to understand, Elwood is not, in the common sense of the term, crazy. Elwood has this friend that nobody else happens to be able to see, but he is a friend. The thing is that once in a while some other people do see him, which gives the show a little more dimension than it might otherwise have.
She wants to congratulate us on the impression we made at the party. Jane, oh, Sense and Sensibility.
If this makes people laugh, the idea of this white rabbit who isn't there at all makes people laugh. I just think it's a wonderful thing to have maybe the white rabbit is the joy. There's something wonderful about hearing an audience laugh.
We seem to specialize so much now in put-down comedy and making people uncomfortable or making certain ideas or something unpleasant. This one doesn't do that. This is a pleasant comedy, and even the people who would normally, in a show like this, perhaps be what you might categorize as villains, really are not.
There's a spirit about the piece that you can't help but being carried away by it, and I certainly am, and I think the rest of the cast is too. Hopefully the audience will feel the same.
It's always great to see Dick Welsbacher on our stages. which opens at the Wichita Center for the Arts on the 7th.
I would not have recognized my own garden if it were not for your ingenious book. Is it not? Look! Here is the garden as it appears to us now. And here...
Arcadia is really a love story. It's also a mystery, and it's also a comedy, so we sort of have lots of things rolled into one with this particular show. But it's really about the frailties of the human heart, about the capabilities of the human mind, and how one often derails the other, how love will sort of throw us off track sometimes. And it's also an interesting story because it takes place in two time frames, one of them in the early 19th century, 2 days in 1809, 1 day in 1812, and then a day in the present time. And they sort of collide on stage in the last scenes.
Well, so much for Mr. Noakes. He puts himself forward as a gentleman, as a philosopher of the picturesque, as a visionary who can move mountains and cause lakes, but in the scheme of the garden, he is as the serpent.
Tom Stoppard is probably the most brilliant writer of the 20th century, at least in my opinion. He's ever since Rosencrantz and Guildenstern first came out, he's been well known for his very cerebral kinds of plays. But we find out in this play that he also has a heart. He knows enough about hearts to break them. He has written some beautiful, beautiful characters, especially for women in this particular show. Thomasina Coverley is played by a 13-year-old girl who is a child prodigy in mathematics. So we're expecting some of the maths mob to come out for this one too. There's lots of interesting work in there about chaos theory, about the second law of thermodynamics, about Newton's laws and that sort of thing. But you really don't need a PhD in physics to figure out what's going on in this play. The playwright does a real good job of sort of laying it out for you like a puzzle. And the audience has really a better idea of what's happening in the play than the characters do, because they can see both time frames and see what really happened, where the characters are left to subjecture. So that makes it an interesting play as well.
I think if the audience knows before they come to just sort of sit back and kind of relax and just let it all soak in, just this love of knowledge that these people are celebrating, and not to be looking for applause, you know, just to enjoy humanism for humanism's sake, you know. That's kind of what this play was about eventually for me. I tried to make it all about chaos theory, you know, or you know, read up on chaos theory and tried to figure out how we're going to bring that in and describe it and, you know, have chaotic elements going on, and that was complicating it too much. I think it's just sit and relax and revel in Tom Stoppard's understanding that knowledge is just a wonderful end in itself sometimes.
Venison well hugged, an embrace of grouse.
This passionate play can be seen through February 16th. And be sure to give yourself plenty of time before or after Arcadia to enjoy the art exhibitions in the center's galleries.